Hey guys. All right, so this is how I'm going to be having to do math for a little while. So I decided that I'm just going to get on here and work through some of the AMI packets because some of y'all have reached out to me and y'all are kind of confused about it. And so I want to do what I can to make that as simple as possible. So I'm using a tablet and this little writing pen so I can write on my screen to work through these problems. This is one of the first times I'm using it, so please be patient with me while I try to figure it out. Okay, so let's look at this first one. This is AMI day 1. So hopefully y'all have gotten to that before now, and this is just going to be a review. If not, then you can work through this question with me. So let's look at it. It says the data shows, where is my pen? The data shows the number of free throws attempted by a team in its first 10 games. So all of these numbers right here represent free throws attempted during some basketball games. It says the median is 12 attempts and the mean is 11.5. Okay, so let's go ahead and write that out so that we can write out what we already know. Okay, so it says the mean is 11.5 and the median is 12. Okay, so before we move forward, we need to remember what those two words mean and how to find them. Okay, so let's start with the mean. The mean is the average. Okay, so how did they get 11.5 as the average? Well, they took all of our data values, they added them all up, and they got the total number of free throws attempted. Okay, well, in order to find the average of that, you then take it and you divide it by the total amount. So you count all of them up, but it already told us there are 10. So then we take that number and we divide it by 10. So I'm assuming that the total was 115 because 115 divided by 10 would give us 11.5. All right, so then it wants us to find the median. So they got 12 as the median. So how did they get that value? So what we have to do is remember what the median is. Oh, you can't really see that. The median is the number in the middle. Okay, so we're just going to go over here and we're going to find the number in the middle, and you can just do that by marking off the first number and the last. Where's my pen? There she is. Team time out. There. First, last. First, last, first, last. But since we have an even number of data values, there's going to be two numbers in my middle spot. So when you have two numbers in the middle spot, you're going to come off to the side and you have to take those two numbers, whatever they are. In this case, it's 12 and 12. You add them together and then you have to divide it by how many you've got. So 12 plus 12 is 24 divided by 2, and that is 12, which is what they got to begin with. So that is how they got their data at the beginning of this question, right there. All right, now it says, after reviewing the data, it is determined that 2 should not be included since that was an exhibition game rather than a regular game during the season. What happens to the median if the 2 is removed, and what happens to the mean if the 2 is removed? All right, so basically what it's wanting us to do is take all the same information and do exactly what we just did, except it wants us to remove this guy here, the 2. Okay, so we're going to just find the mean and the median again, but we're going to leave the 2 out. Okay, so let's come down here. And I'm going to separate, oh my gosh, yeah, nailed it. Okay, so I'm going to come down here, I'm going to find the mean and the median again. So right here, the mean, the median. Okay, so I'm just going to change my screen here and we're going to find the mean of this data together. So I'm going to come over here to my calculator. I'm going to do 11 plus 11 plus 11 plus 12 plus 12 plus 13 plus 14 plus 14 plus 10. Okay, so I have my total. My total is 113, and then I'm going to take that and I'm going to divide it by how many we have. Now, to start with over here, we had 10 games, but they wanted us to remove 1. Okay, so now we only have 9. So the total amount, so that's our total, and then by how many games we had, we divide it by 9. Okay, so we get 12.5 repeating, so we can go back over here to our notebooks, and we get 12. We'll just round it to 6. Okay, so it says what happens to the median, or what happens to the mean if it's removed. You can just come over here and you can say it went, because we can see up here that it was 11.5 and now it's 12.6. So because it took out that lower number of free throw attempts, that was pulling that data down and bringing the average down. It actually, when we removed it, it increased it. So the average number of free throw attempts increased. Okay, so that is how you would answer that one. That's actually number 2. My bad, I got them backwards. Okay, so next it wants us to do the median, which again is the number in the middle spot. Okay, so I'm just going to go up here. I'm going to mark off my first, my last, my first, my last, first, last, first, last. And this time, since we're working with an odd amount of numbers in our data set, there is exactly 1 in the middle. There's the same number of data points on both sides, so that is the number in the middle spot. So our median is 12. Okay, so it wants to know what happens, whoops, that's not right. It wants to know what happens to our median when the 2 is removed, and you can see our median up here was 12, and our median down here is 12, so nothing really changed. So it was not affected. Okay, so when we have those lower numbers, those extremes, those low numbers or the high numbers in our data set, we think all the way back out to the beginning of the year, we learned that the median is not affected by those extreme values as much. So yeah, that is AMI Day 1. If you have any more questions, just email me. Make sure if you do have a question that you are sending me a picture specifically of what you've worked towards, and that helps me to answer your question better. All right, see y'all guys. I hope you are staying safe and washing your hands. See you next time.